So let's get into Nesara, what it is, and the benefits. Welcome, everybody. Keep checking in. We'll go through the benefits one by one, and then I'll share proof of what I have. So the Nesara law is the most groundbreaking information to sweep not only the United States, but the entire planet. I learned about the Nesara law and benefits, I want to say about 2016, 2017. But I started talking about the benefits around the summer of 2017. The act does away with the Federal Reserve Bank, the Internal Revenue Services, the shadow government, and much more. The Global Alliance, which is a group of people or individuals that have come together in order to take down the deep state, have decided to implement a copy of this plan, Nesara Jasara, for everyone around the world. But the Nesara Jasara, which I'll get into that in a minute, is actually something that was introduced by farmers. So let me get off of here just for a minute so I can talk to you about it, because this, what I'm going to share with you, goes line by line about how Nesara got started. Basically, in the 1970s, a group of farmers took the United States Incorporated to court. They took the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve central banking system to court because the Federal Reserve was forcing these farmers to plant sickly seeds that were infiltrated by Monsanto poison. The farmers were forced to do certain practices with cattle that they were not comfortable with because they knew it would harm people. And if the farmers did not do that, they could not get loans from the federal government central banking system. When the farmers would do all they could to comply with the central banking system, they would get the loans, but the loans would come with interest rates or usury, what the Bible calls usury or usury, which is interest rates. And the Bible tells you that you're not supposed to put interest upon loans. You're not supposed to charge people loans. The Constitution for our republic says the same thing because it's basically based on the biblical principles. So the United States Federal Reserve central banking system would force these farmers to implement certain practices in order to get a loan. And then in order to get these loans, they would put high interest rates on them. So the farmers said, this is unconstitutional. It's treasonous. We know this. And we're not comfortable with doing this. The farmers are the backbone of our country. So they took the United States Incorporated, the whole government or shadow government, to court. And we call it the shadow government because they're not really the government. The republic is our lawful government. The Constitution for our republic is our lawful government. And all this was usurped or overtaken by a group of bloodline families. And they incorporated themselves in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization, incorporated in the state of Delaware. Nonprofit religious organization because the Pope was the head of that entity. So the farmers, being bold, took the United States Incorporated, the shadow government, to court, that group of bloodline families, and they took the central banking system to court. And they said, we're not going to allow this to happen because we're the backbone of our nation here in America. We feed our country. And so what happened was they went through United States courts and they went through world courts. And it was determined that, in fact, the United States Incorporated central banking system had implemented unfair, unlawful, treasonous, unconstitutional practices against the farmers. And when they dug deeper into the claim, they said not only had the United States Incorporated mistreated the farmers, but they also implemented non-constitutional, nefarious, treasonous banking practices upon people all across America, the American people and the world. So it was determined that the United States Incorporated will be dismantled and their central banking system, and the farmers would be paid out. And we, the people, would be paid out for these nefarious, unfair banking practices, like forcing you to take out a student loan, a mortgage to pay off your house, automobile loans, any banking loans are actually nefarious and unconstitutional. Also, putting fines on the people is unconstitutional. Going to court to pay fines is unconstitutional, because all of these entities, from the banks all the way to the court system, are actually accessing your birth certificate bond that is attached to your trust. So when you all were born, you were given a birth certificate. Our mom signed it as an agent, unbeknownst to her, turning us over into the jurisdiction of the government. Those birth certificates were then securitized and monetized, traded on the New York Stock Exchange like we were cattle, and it earned interest. And then that was put into a trust. That money was supposed to offset any debt or any living expenses that we have. But instead, what these nefarious people did is they forced you to take out a student loan to be educated, or a mortgage to get a house, which a mortgage means death pledge, or an automobile loan. And instead of just offsetting the debt with your birth certificate bond and the trust that we all have, you're all trust fund babies. Okay, but that's coming back to you. Instead of doing that, the bank would give you a loan. They wouldn't give you money. They would give you a loan. You would sign that loan. And when you were signing those papers, unbeknownst to you and me, we were giving them power of attorney to access our trust and our birth certificate bond. The banks, the courts would then pay themselves and then still charge you, and then charge you with interest on top of that debt. So when all of this was uncovered through the courts, when the farmers took the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve Central Banking System to court, when all of that was uncovered, they said, we have to mitigate this problem, because the United States Incorporated was not only running America, but they were running the world. Okay, you all know how they were running the world through the money or monetary system, right? What gave the United States financial economic hegemony was our agreement with Saudi Arabia. Okay. And this is what made the dollar the world reserve currency. We agreed with Saudi Arabia to protect the Saudi kingdom in exchange for their oil. And we would force all exporting nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia using the United States dollar. So when any nation wanted to get oil from Saudi Arabia or do trade with Saudi Arabia, they had to peg their currency to the United States dollar, or just outright use the United States dollar. That's what made the United States Incorporated have financial and economic hegemony. Their dollar, their financial system, their monetary system, that, and the dollar, which has sigils on and all kind of money magic and curses all on it. Okay. So the Supreme Courts and world courts said, we have to stop this. And we will make sure that we'll dismantle the whole central banking system and these bloodline families. But it's going to take time, is what they told the farmers in the 1970s, because we want to ensure that we go to the core and we cut the snake off by the head, and then we chop up the snake and then we burn it up. Okay, that's why I did a podcast yesterday that the system is collapsing. And the subtitle was "Let It Burn Down," burn it all down. Okay. So we have to cut it off, snake off by the head, chop it up in pieces, and then burn it. And so the world court said, we have to do this in a way that the fewest amount of people are harmed, because the farmers started losing their lives when they took the United States Incorporated to court, because you don't mess with the Illuminati, right? And their attorneys started losing their lives because they were representing the farmers. So they said, we have to do this in a systematic way that will protect the people. And then the farmers said, look, don't pay us in fiat, because that's attached to the United States Incorporated. Pay us in gold, because gold is lawful money. So yes, Nesara is about the gold standard as well. So the courts determined that after they demolished the United States Incorporated central banking system, they will return us to constitutional law, restore the republic. They had to figure out a way to do this, okay? And return us to the gold standard. And then the farmers would be paid out in gold. Well, that took time. If you fast forward, now we're talking about gold. We're talking about the gold standard in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. I've been talking about gold since 2014, actually. At the same time, you had Empress Verdice or Verdice Gaston L. Turner Bay, who was the Washita Empress, or the Empress of the Moors, or the Empress of the indigenous, autogenous, so-called Black people here in America, taking the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve Central Banking System to court at the same time. And she said, you stole the land from the indigenous people, or the autogenous people, the original people here. You reclassified them as Black and African American. You lied to them and told them they came from Africa and from slave ships. You lied about the Louisiana Purchase. It was actually a Louisiana theft, and it wasn't just about the state of Louisiana. It was about a massive land grab from the autogenous indigenous people. You lied about so many things. You bloodline families that's controlling the world. You're going to have to pay us. She won her claim in the amount of $85 quadrillion. Again, the Supreme Courts and the World Court said, we already know who you guys are. Okay, we are going to form an alliance that we now call the White Hats of the military and the White Knights of Nesara, to take down the deep state, return us back to constitutional law, which is the law of the land, and the republic, which the autogenous people actually created. And when that happens, we're going to pay you guys out in gold. And it's not just the autogenous people, but it's also the people here on the land that have treaties with the autogenous indigenous people, or the people who can agree to the tenets or the 5 components of the original so-called Moorish dynasty or autogenous or indigenous republic, because we had treaties with Europeans that came here. I don't know why people won't talk about that. It's small sections of people will talk about it, but I mean, on a whole, we need to talk about how we had original governments here, and we had treaties with people to come here, and we did trade and commerce together, and we got along for the most part until the bloodline families rose up, usurped authority from our republic, stole a lot of land and resources from the people, implemented programs like racism, sexism, feminism, ageism, transgenderism, all these isms and schisms to divide us so they could conquer us. Well, now that the farmers and Empress Verdice Gaston L. Turner Bay has taken the United States Incorporated to court from the 70s all the way up through the 90s, we are now entering a time, well, we see the destruction of the deep state Illuminati Federal Reserve System, central banking system, fake faux government, also called the shadow government. This is why in 2014, the Pope came out with a letter that I've talked about on many occasions called Motu Proprio, where he said that the government is fake and all presidents are not presidents of America, but in fact, presidents of the United States Incorporated. And he said, our time is up. Go to my videos on YouTube, type in Motu, M-O-T-U, Proprio, P-R-O-P-R-I-O, I think that's his. And you'll see how Pope Francis said it's over for us. We have to cease and desist. All government agencies have to cease and desist. I have to stand down. Presidents of corporations have to stand down. Obama, who was the president at that point, he said is not the president of the republic or a government. He's the president and CEO of the United States Incorporated. It's over. We have to stand down, and we have to return everything back over to the people. He wasn't being benevolent. He was doing what he had to do and tell the truth because he was under order to do so. Okay, so now let's get back to Nesara. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information, set the groundwork, or put a frame around what we're discussing today. So come on, keep checking in, family. Thank you so much for those of you that are sending me a Cash App blessing. I don't have my phone right here, so I can't acknowledge you. I appreciate you. And for those that are supporting my work, you know that my Cash App is $ Mama Kia 13, MAMA 13. So let me bring up Nesara right here, and we'll quickly go over the benefits because I have another podcast at 10 o'clock. So this was a lawsuit that became known as Nesara. By 1978, retired military general Roy Schwashinger had brought a lawsuit against the United States Incorporated by the Farmers Union that began working its way through the Supreme Court. And through that system, while it was going through the courts, it was brought out in the court that in the early 1900s, the privately owned United States Incorporated, owned by bankers Rothschild, Rockefellers, and others, had illegally changed the Constitution so they could take over the United States economic system so as to establish their own Federal Reserve system. So we already talked about that. At the time when the Supreme Court agreed with the farmers, the successful lawsuit was presented to Congress, but it took the Navy SEALs and Delta Force with guns in hand to make sure Congress passed the Nesara law, which is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. And at that time, Bill Clinton was the president. He had no interest, though, in signing Nesara into law. So on October the 10th, under orders from the United States military general, remember, in motu proprio, Pope Francis said, if we don't stand down, the Grand Army of the Republic will be formed to force us to stand down. This is what happened in 2000. Under orders of the United States military generals, elite Navy SEALs and Delta Force stormed the White House and under gunpoint forced Bill Clinton to sign Nesara into law. They told everybody to stand down. They told national security to stand down, but they didn't want to, but they had to. Now, I'll speed through this. That was signed into law in 2000, and Clinton was supposed to make sure that Nesara, which he did sign under military pressure, it was supposed to be announced on 9/11, 9/11, 2001. Why 9/11? Emergency. Look up the gematria of 9/11. Or those of you who are in numerology, tell us what 9/11 is. 9 is a number of completion. Okay, it's the highest vibration. 11 is a portal or a doorway. It's in with the new, out with the old, in with the new. Okay, so that announcement was supposed to be made on 9/11. It was supposed to come from the Pentagon. What happened on 9/11, though, instead of Nesara being announced? The National Economic Security and Reformation Act, which said that, we're supposed to be free and we're supposed to restore constitutional law and we're supposed to restore our republic. Instead of making that announcement from the Pentagon, the deep state stole the gold out of the towers, demolished the towers, and sent some type of plane or something, or CGI or something, into the Pentagon, and we never had that announcement. Then they blamed our Muslim brothers and sisters for that, and they used that whole thing that they did to take lives, steal the wealth, blame a whole community, Middle East Muslims here in America, and they used it also to take away more of our freedoms. That's when they stopped allowing you to go into Canada freely without a passport, and they now made you have a passport. That's when they started doing all of these extra things when you go to the airport, like making you stand up with your hands up, and doing all these scans and making you take your shoes off. They started putting more practices into national security and into everyday life to surveil us, under the guise of protection because of what they did in 9/11. Somebody said Bush did it. Ultra Instinct says, I was just thinking the other day, they called dude 47, right? Now they call him 40. And they called him 45. Yes, that's a 9. And now they call him 47, and that's the number 11. Wonderful. Also, when you read John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr.'s book, his second book, on page 45 and 40, was it 45 and 47? I think it's 45 and 47. Yes, at 45, he mentions my name, and I was like, wow, that's amazing that John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., also known as David Keith Quigley, mentions my name, and he mentions that he got his a major breakthrough coming out as the real son of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the president, on the Dr. Kia Pruitt show. He said that's how I got one of my biggest breaks, by coming out on the show. And he mentions our relationship on page 45 and 47. And when I was talking about that on my podcast, somebody brought out what you said too. They said, oh my God, everything happened for a reason. Trump is president number 45 and 47. And that the number 47 comes out to 11. Number 45 comes out to 9. Very, very interesting. Okay, so let's get back into what Nesara is. There is little information on the National Economic Security and Reformation Act on Wikipedia or its ramifications. There's a lot of disinformation that has been found on Nesara when you try to Google it. For some reason, they don't want you to know about this, but the law the law was indeed rejected by Congress in the 90s, but it was implemented in 2001. Okay, here's the bullet points of everything I just said about Nesara here. All right. So what are the tenets or the changes or components of the National Economic Security and Reformation Act? And the global version of that will happen too, all across the nation, all across the world, with JSARA, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. Number one, the first component is, thanks to the farmers, we ought to give the farmers gratitude. It will zero out all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. This is the Federal Reserve's worst nightmare, it says, but a Jubilee is coming. And if you look up, was it Epoch News? Let's see. There is an article that says a Jubilee is coming. Are you ready? Let's see where we can find that at. Zero Hedge. The people in power will trickle out information little by little, or behind the scenes, or quietly or covertly, but we can find them, right? We know where to find them. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And when we're ready for information and we have a positive mindset, an abundance mindset, and we know that we're going to be liberated, then we start to open up our minds to receiving the information, and the universe guides us to where that information is. So Zero Hedge published an article, and I brought this out last year too when it came out, December 24th of 2024. It says a debt jubilee of biblical proportions is coming. Are you ready? 4,000 years ago, the rulers of ancient Babylon discovered a technique to stave off violent revolts. In ancient times, people became hopelessly indebted to their creditors, just like now. As debts mounted, social unrest would boil over, threatening the stability of the entire ruling class. So what they would do was they would implement what's called a debt jubilee. This acted as societal pressures released valves when no other options remained. The practice spread throughout the ancient world and became codified in various civilizations. And it talks about how this is basically based on biblical principles, that every 7 years, you're supposed to just eliminate everybody's debt and free the slaves. You're also supposed to give the land a rest every 7 years. And then you multiply 7 times 7, and you're supposed to do it on the 49th year as well. And then on the 50th, you have a huge celebration of a debt jubilee, a huge celebration of letting slaves go free, because slaves back then, were some people that you confiscated because they owed you a debt, and they just worked off the debt, kind of like indentured service, and they would go home. Well, sometimes they wouldn't go home, but a biblical principle is that you're supposed to, every 7 years, get rid of all the debt and let them go free and give the land a rest. The book of Leviticus formalizes debt jubilee as the conclusion of a 49-year biblical cycle, 7 cycles of 7 years. I'm Hebrew. I understand this. I know this. I grew up understanding and knowing this, and actually knowing that it was implemented through my bloodline. This particular editor or contributor says, I believe this ancient practice is poised for a major comeback as government, corporate, and personal debt levels today have reached unsustainable heights. And he goes on to talk about a debt jubilee, how this is redistribution of wealth, not wealth creation. This is why I always tell you all to buy up depreciated assets while you can now, because wealth is being redistributed from the ruling class to we the people. That's what Executive Order 138/18, signed by President Trump under his first administration, was about. Anybody or group or individual people that participated in crimes against humanity would have their assets frozen. They would be arrested. Go to resignation.info and you will see people being arrested or forced to resign, and their assets will be frozen, and those assets will come back to we the people. So if you want to get in on the greatest wealth transfer or the redistribution of wealth that will ever happen historically, do what they did during the Great Depression and buy up depreciated assets, like digital assets, like foreign currencies, like land, because all the land real estate is being dumped back onto the market, like farmland. Figure out, and I've done videos on it, what are the depreciated assets? Like gold, okay? Gold right now is what, over $3,000 an ounce, but it would go up even higher. And you can get gold Arum notes, or also known as gold backs, for as little as $3. We've done podcasts on that. Get in on a greatest wealth transfer in history, or buy silver, what else? Sterling silver, constitutional silver, so-called junk silver. This is the way you can get wealth right now. So a great debt jubilee is happening. Are you ready, family? Let me put that here. So you remember they said on the 50th year, they said Trump signed an EO about repaying fraudulent student loans. We'll talk about that later. I always take news when it first comes out with a grain of salt, or I'll look deeper into it, see why, because that's a good question. But we know that all the loans are going to be done away with. We'll talk about that later, okay? Because I don't want to get too far off. Are you ready for a debt jubilee? Okay, because it is going to happen. And they said on the 50th year, you have a big celebration. According to Hebraic scholars, we're in that 50th year. This is probably why President Trump said we're going to have a huge celebration from Memorial Day, the end of May. We're in the month of May. April showers bring May flowers. From the end of May 2025 all the way up to July 4th, 2026. A huge celebration, he said. 150th year. See that number, 50th year celebration of America's birthday. And that celebration is going to where's it going to be? It's going to take place in Iowa, on Iowa Fairgrounds. Look it up. Huge celebration. A year-long celebration. And he called it a jubilee. I'll put all of these things we're talking about in the description section. It may take me an hour or two because I have to do another podcast after this. So if you guys can look that up, 150-year celebration between the end of, I can't find it right here, but it's between the end of May 2025 and July 4th, 2026. Hey, yes, it's going to be a world fair. Thank you. That's what I'll look up. World fair. 150-year celebration. I just want to make sure I have proof to support my claims. It's not, I know you guys have heard of it. It's not coming up right away. I must be putting in the wrong things. Okay. Simon says, he said liberation before somebody said we will have a Christmas in July. Oh, it's 250 years. Oh, that's what I'm thank you so much. 250 year celebration. So maybe I was putting in the wrong thing. I appreciate you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So we'll put this in the description section, and I'll put that link in the chat too. Oh, thank you. Say Q. Here you go. Trump announces a year-long celebration for United States 250th year birthday. Year-long, starting from May 30th. Where did he say? Trump aims to hold a year-long celebration from Memorial Day 2025 through July 4th, 2026, and hold the Great American State Fair on the Iowa Fairgrounds. We are going to have we're celebrating American independence. As a nation, we should be preparing for the most spectacular birthday party. This is celebrating American independence. It's celebrating a Jubilee, family. Let me put that in the chat for you. Okay, back to Nesara. So Nesara will zero out all credit card, mortgage debt, any bank loans, and we will have a Jubilee of forgiveness of debt. It will abolish the IRS, the Internal Revenue Services. Remember, President Trump said that he was going to do away with the IRS and create the ERS. So let me just basically, I'm going to show you proof of that in 1 minute. Here we go. You're into Hebrew information. Absolutely, I am too. So let's see if I can find this for you. I just want to show you proof of what we're saying, that Trump said he was going to do away with the IRS. Here you go. First of all, he said he's going to get rid of or halt the hiring of 80,000 IRS workers. Remember that? Because the IRS had said they were going to hire 87,000 representatives, and these representatives were going to force us to pay taxes, and they were given the mandate that they could shoot to unalive anybody that wouldn't pay their taxes. Well, Trump halts 80,000 IRS jobs, and he imposes a hiring freeze. Now, some people were upset about that, but he's going to halt the expansion of the Internal Revenue Service because he said he would do that when he was on the campaign trail, and that's one of the first things that he did when he came into office. Okay, let me show you another article here. Trump says he would create an external revenue agency to collect tariffs, because initially, this is how countries do business with each other. If I import my goods into your country, you will tax it. That's the way you make money. If you import your goods into my country, I will tax it so that my country can make money for themselves. But the people that usurped our republic said, no, we're not going to tax these other countries for importing their goods. We're going to let them take over our country, China. Okay, we're going to let them make all the goods, take over our country so that our country can become socialist. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop taxing countries and we're going to start taxing the people. That's why they created the Internal Revenue Services, and they start taxing us, imposing these taxes on us to make us live in angst, fear, and having anxiety, and just become workers that will pay them all of our money, or 1/3 of our money, just about, so that we can have very little. And then we're emitting a psychic energy called loosh because we're under attack and we're angry and we're fearful and we can't hardly exist. We can't take care of our families. And these entities that control the bloodline families are absorbing that energy, that loosh, and that's what they eat for food. Well, Trump came in and said, no, I'm getting rid of the Internal Revenue Service. I'm creating the External Revenue Service, and I'm putting taxes on all of those countries that do business with us. And I'm going to create a level playing field. So if they want to do business with us, they're going to get taxed. which actually works for them because now they have to raise their country's currencies in order to pay the tax and raise their country's currencies so they can pay their own people and so their own countries can thrive. This is all a part of a secret agreement as well called Project Sandman. It was a secret agreement between 209 nations that when triggered, they would stop trading with the dollar and go to use their own currencies backed by resources like gold, palladium, and platinum and other resources and oil. And that secret agreement was to have peace between the 209 nations. So we see that we are actually abolishing the IRS and income taxes. We're abolishing the IRS. You can call the IRS now, you hardly get an answer. When we finally got an answer after months of trying to get representatives, I told my daughter, ask them who controls the IRS now. And I said, and the woman was like, what do you mean? I said, just outright ask them, does the United States Treasury Department control the IRS now? Or do they have all the duties of the IRS now? She said, yes, because anything dealing with money has to go through the Treasury Department. As a matter of fact, you may not find this article. It's been scrubbed from the internet, but there were articles under the first Trump administration that said he put the duties of the IRS underneath the United States Treasury Department. Why? Because according to our Constitution, the only entity that may deal with money, according to our Constitution for our republic, is the United States Treasury Department. Abolishing the IRS. The IRS will be transferred to the United States Treasury National Sales Tax Area. The fourth bullet point, it will create a 14% flat rate, non-essential new items only sales tax revenue for the government. So a new items only and large ticketed items will have a 14% tax on it, according to Nesara law. But they may not do that because now we have a sovereign wealth fund that President Trump created. I did a video on sovereign wealth fund. You can look it up on Dr. Kia Pruitt show on YouTube or Rumble. Type in sovereign wealth fund. That is a fund that's comprised of precious metals, silver, gold, palladium, platinum, rare earth minerals, land, other real estate, like farmland, stocks, bonds, and what else? I can't think. Oh, and the tariffs, money from tariffs. That sovereign wealth fund is a fund that's comprised of all of those assets in order to create humanitarian efforts or create different things to help our country and for development of our infrastructure. You can look up my chat on my video and I talk about that. So they may not even do a tax, but if they do, it'll be only on large ticket new items only. And that's it. No food, no medicine will be taxed. Nor will used items such as old homes. All taxes, internal revenue, all these taxes that we've been dealing with, when you go buy food, gas, everything's taxed right now because they've been trying to wear out the people. That will all cease. Increased benefits to senior citizens. There's been a lot of rhetoric or talk about Social Security benefits increasing. Whether or not that will happen, we're not sure, but we do know that we will have increased benefits for our senior citizens. We will also have a bill that's been reintroduced. Let's see if I can find it. That will enable women to retire at the age of 51. Because President Trump said that women shouldn't have to work until the end of their lives. Women's Retirement Protection Act. So there's something called the Women's Retirement Protection Act. When I can't find it, I'll find that bill that's being reintroduced to enable women to retire in their 50s. It will return constitutional law to all courts and legal matters. This should say it will return constitutional law to all courts and lawful matters, because legal matters refer to the United States incorporated in the Constitution of the United States Incorporation, that group of bloodline families. Those are statutes, codes, policies, legalities. Law or lawful matters relate to the Constitution or law of the land and common law of for our republic. but we're going to return to constitutional law and get rid of maritime or admiralty law. Maritime or admiralty law is law based on the water. That's what we have been under, but all that will cease and desist. And we saw that the head of that system just recently died. That was the Pope. And the Queen died. And now we have King Charles that is barely living. He will soon pass away. So we're going to return to constitutional law. Let me see if I can find something about returning us to constitutional law. This could be why judges are being arrested, because attorneys and judges have Esquire behind their name. They must pass the British Accredited Registry, the British Accredited Registry, or the B.A.R exam in order to operate as an attorney or a judge. They do not work for us because they passed the B.A.R, British Accredited Registry. They work for the Queen or the Crown. They do what's in the best interest of the Crown and the deep state in the United States Incorporated, not what's in the best interest of we the people. This might even be unbeknownst to them. They have Esquire behind their name. That is a title of nobility. According to our Constitution, you may not have a title of nobility and create laws, because if you have a title of nobility, you're saying you're above the people and you work for the Crown. This is why judges and attorneys must stand down. Now, I am very particular with my words. I didn't say lawyers, I said attorneys. Attorneys and lawyers are two different things. Attorneys that want to or desire to operate under our republic, which has been covertly or quietly restored, if they want to continue to operate in law or to actually operate lawfully, they have to be retrained. Okay. Attorneys attorney for you. They speak on your behalf because according to admiralty law, maritime law, the deep state, the Illuminati, the United States Incorporated, we are dead and we are dead at sea, and we need somebody to attorney for us or to speak on our behalf. Attorneys attorney for you. They speak on your behalf at court. That's why you can't speak. And that's why they whisper to you and you whisper to them. They have a title of nobility. They pass the British Accredited Registry. On both sides, prosecutors and defendants, they all actually are part of the same club, as well as the judges, who wears a black robe because he's performing a ritual, which is your burial in the court system. You're dead at sea. They all access your birth certificate bond. You're going to see that bullet point in here, Nesara law, how they're going to do away with birth certificate bonds being traded. They all access your birth certificate bond and pay each other. They're all on the same team. An attorney speaks on your behalf because you're a minor, you're not in your proper person, you're not sovereign, you're a slave. A lawyer advises on the law. A lawyer is constitutionally trained, and they are experts on the law, and they are allowed to and enabled to advise on the law. Attorneys attorney for you to speak on your behalf, law on your behalf, under the old system of maritime law and law of the water and admiralty law. Lawyers, constitutional lawyers, have learned constitutional law and they put it into place. They can actually create laws because they understand and understand and have studied constitutional law. They are experts at it and they can advise on the law. They are a part of the republic and the Constitution for our republic. They operate for us, we the people. Attorneys do not. So this is why they all have to be retrained. So that bullet point that says it's going to return us to constitutional law and lawful matters, we're actually seeing that happen right now. And so I ask, is this why judges have been arrested? Because a lot of them thought they were above the law. I did a video on that. You can find my video on my Dr. Kia Pruitt channel. Here we go. I'm going to have to put that other video off for a while. Trump's attorney general warned that nobody is above the law. Attorney General Pam Bondi warned Friday that the arrest of a judge in Wisconsin was only the beginning of the Donald Trump's law enforcement crackdown on the judiciary. This talks about how Judge Hannah Duggan was arrested earlier in the day on Monday because this person, according to accounts, misdirected immigration and customs enforcement agents. She was trying to protect illegal immigrants, or she or whoever that person was. So Hannah Duggan, that was a woman. But the Attorney General said this is only the beginning. We're cracking down on the whole judiciary system. That's part of Nesara. So family, when people say Nesara is not real, it's not happening, you can actually show them that indeed it is happening. This is great knowledge that you, thank you for your truth. You're welcome, truth, peace, and peace for all. You're welcome. Okay, let's get back to the Nesara document. All this I'm going to put in the description section for you. Return us to constitutional law, reinstates the original title of nobility amendment. Okay, because the title of nobility amendment to our Constitution says you can't have a title of nobility and serve the people because you think you're above the law. You're actually working for the British Crown. Make sure I'm getting everything. Oh, and just in case you haven't seen it, that says they thought they were above the law. Judges and pastors are being arrested or forced to resign. So you can look for that video on my YouTube channel. I'll bring it up for you right quick. Here it is. That's not the, they thought they were above the law. So go and look for that video, but I'll put it in the description section for you as well. All right, let's get back to this because this is good. We're proving that Nesara is actually happening. No, I can't go over any other thing because I'm talking about this right now. Not that I can't. I really just don't want to make the time because I have to do another video right after this. Okay. Later on, I can answer some of those other questions that don't relate to this. We will reinstate the title of nobility. Hundreds of thousands of Americans under control of foreign powers will lose their citizenship. They'll be deported to other countries and they'll be barred from re-entry for the remainder of their lives because a lot of those people that came into America unlawfully, or maybe they did come in legally, did not have the best interest of the people at heart. So they will be deported and they'll be barred from re-entry for the rest of their lives. And the rest of it says millions of people will discover their college degrees are worthless paper. Probably because I don't think my college degree is worthless paper because I got the information and I'm using it now. When I was in college, I was very intentional about studying economics, policies. My undergrad degree is in social sciences, where I put together my own program to study economics, sociology, psychology, and political science. And that's what I'm using now. And I got a master's degree in counseling. That's what I'm using now for my consultation and counseling and helping people become their most amazing selves and become a highly self-actualized. So the paper itself might be worthless, but the knowledge for me is not. I was very intentional. Then I went and did graduate studies, advanced graduate studies in economics and business. And then I got a doctorate in education and counseling psychology so that I can understand and understand human behavior, and so that I can work at a higher level in higher education as a dean. I didn't get that high because I didn't pledge with secret societies like the Divine Nine or the Boule. So you don't go high unless you do that. So I never became a dean, but that information is still here. Still, they say college degrees will be worthless paper because you won't even need them in the new system. You'll be able to use your own gifts, skills, and abilities to create your own businesses. And that's why we're getting rid of the public sector or the government, so that now under the private sector, you can create businesses and do business with each other or across the seas with other countries. I'm excited. I hope you all are. So let me do something right quick. I need to go to my YouTube channel and change the time of this other video. Do I want to change it there? 1 second, family. Keep talking in the chat. Let me know what you think so far and tell me if this information is it helping? Let's see if I could change the time here. Yep, I can change it. All right. So I'm changing the other video in my members only section, the time to 11, so we can go over all these bullet points. I think that's important. Okay, the 8th bullet point is will establish new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after Nesara's announcement. The interim government will cancel all national emergencies and return us back to constitutional law. So this is the 8th bullet point of Nesara, the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. It says again that after Nesara's announced, I don't know if it'll be a soft disclosure where we'll just see it being implemented and it's not really this literally announced, or if it'll be a overt announcement. But anyway, 120 days after that, it says we're going to have new presidential and congressional elections. Why do we need new congressional elections? A couple of reasons. Most of Congress has a title of nobility. Most of them have Esquire behind their names. They allegedly passed the B.A.R, or they said that they did anyway. And you may not create laws with the title of nobility according to our Constitution. So that's why they have to stand down. Another reason is some of them aren't even American. So therefore, they're not even lawfully able to hold that title or to serve as someone who can create laws. Another reason is because many of them have been found guilty of tampering with elections. And many of them have also committed crimes against humanity. So they got to stand down. And we're going to have new presidential elections, allegedly, because we know President Donald Trump, although he is the 47th president, he is the CEO and president of the United States Incorporated. As such, he is using their tools, the tools of the deep state of the United States Incorporated, called executive orders. He's using their own tools against them. So he's signing executive order after executive order to demolish the deep state, to dismantle the government or to downsize the government. He's using executive orders to create tariffs to tax other nations. He's using executive orders to protect and close borders. He's using what they have implemented under the United States Incorporated that they have been doing. He's using it against them. But he is, in fact, the president and CEO of the United States Incorporated. As such, when it goes down, the president of that corporation goes down. When the ship goes down, the captain of the ship also goes down. So when the United States Incorporated is completely dismantled, he will have done his job. He can step down, however he decides to exit the stage. So according to Nesara, we'll have new elections. Will we have new elections? Truly, I don't know. I'm just telling you what the Nesara says. What does the Republic say? How do we bring in presidents, or do we even have presidents under a republic? That's something that we need to research. Welcome, new member, Philip Mitchell. We're so happy to have you as a silver member of our Soul Tribe. God bless you. Have a smile on you, Brother Philip. We appreciate you. And at 11, we're going to do a show in our members only section on how Trump's policies are affecting the Iraqi dinar. You're welcome. Thumbs up, family. Morpheus says, make sure you also hit the like button if you found this video helpful. Let's get back here. So within 120 days after Nesara is announced, we're supposed to have new elections. We will also monitor elections and prevent illegal election activities from special interest groups. We need to monitor elections because we know that elections have been tampered with throughout the years. Even Baba, they call him Baba Dick Gregory, who was a comedian. You guys may have known Dick Gregory. He was a comedian in the 80s and 90s, African-American man, Indigenous man, autogenous man, who actually not only was he a celebrity and a comedian, but he ran for a presidency and he did very well. And he told us during that time he was running for presidency that he won. And there, when the polls were being counted, it looked like it was in his favor. But back then he told us that there were some tampering of the elections. He said, I should have won, but I didn't because of the tampering of elections. Well, he was criticized by some, but lauded and applauded by others who knew that elections had been rigged. We know that during the Bush, I think it was the second presidential race, Bush wasn't supposed to win. Daddy Bush won, and then the son Bush. And it was interesting because during one of those races, I think it was the second one, they were waiting on Florida. I don't know if you guys remember that. And Florida was actually moving in another direction, but then they were saying they had to recount and all that. And so people were saying then under the Bush administration that elections were rigged. And then, of course, when President Trump came up as running for president, we know the elections were rigged in the favor for Biden. But you know what? If something doesn't come out in the wash, it will come out in the rinse. And it was discovered that, in fact, that did happen. And nevertheless, Trump won the second term. So we're going to do away with all this election fraud, and we're going to monitor any type of election activities and keep it from special interest groups. 10th, we're going to create a new United States Treasury, rainbow treasury, backed by gold. 1 minute, family. I have to get my cord. So some people have said that banks already have the new rainbow currency in the banks. Some people have seen it and they've shown pictures of the rainbow currency. You can look it up online and look up rainbow currency. And this currency that looks kind of similar to what we have now, but it's very colorful and it have different images on it. It's pretty like other countries' currencies. It's just a little more desirable to the eye. Somebody says, off topic, your hair. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let me get back on topic. I'm looking at your comments because you guys are so kind. How do you become a member? Let me see if I can find that membership link. If you go to your laptop, you'll probably see it. But there's a join button right beside the subscribe to the channel button. Let me get off here right quick. There's a join button right beside the subscribe button on my YouTube page and under each video. But I'll see if I can find a direct link. I put it in the chat for you, but I'm going to put it in the chat again. And for all of you that subscribe by the deadline, I do have your gifts. The remainder of those gifts will go out today. And we'll do another type of gift too for all of our members. But we gave people 7 days to join the membership, and I'm sending those people a gift. So here is a link. Let me scroll down so I can get you the link. Hi, Mary Helen. She says, Kia. That's the link to the membership. It's in the chat. Hi, Mary Helen. Philip Mitchell says, I'm a part of the Minnesota State Assembly new government under our republic of our continent, Northwestern Hemisphere. We have our AFD, American Federal Dollar, gold backed. We all have $76,120. Thank you for sharing that, Philip Mitchell. Wow. He says they have their American Federal Dollar gold backed. That's amazing. Wow. Let's get back over these benefits. And if I have time, I will answer your questions. I'm going to make time to answer some questions. Okay. We will create a new United States Treasury rainbow currency backed by gold, silver, and platinum precious metals, ending the bankruptcy of the United States that was initiated by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933. Let me show you something. So we're going to have rainbow currency backed by gold. This is why President Trump audited the gold at Fort Knox. They never came back to tell us what he discovered, but you all have seen the videos, at least I've shown them, that says he is auditing the gold in Fort Knox. We also know and have heard under the first administration, he audited the gold in Arizona. One of the reasons they don't allow you to hike beyond a certain point in Arizona is because there's gold there. There's also gold along the Colorado River. There are mounds there. There are pyramids there. There are ancient burial sites there. There's a lot portals there in Arizona. Well, of course, the government wants to protect that from we the people and from the autochthonous people, because that's a part of the land that their ancestors left for them. So Trump was one of the only presidents that asked for that gold. He wanted to audit that gold there. And after we heard that he was auditing the gold there, we didn't hear what he discovered. That was under his first administration. But under this administration, he audited the gold in Fort Knox. So again, there's a lot of gold that people don't know about. Oh, wait a minute. I see something that says Trump backs confirming that Fort Knox gold is there, as the Treasury says it is. Okay, let's look it up together. Let's read this together. Trump backs confirming Fort Knox gold is there, as Treasury says that it is. President Donald Trump is backing an Elon Musk-led Doge effort to confirm that all the United States gold reserves at Fort Knox in Kentucky are really there. This gold, as well as all the other gold we have, will back our new currency. President Trump is backing an Elon Musk Department of Government Efficiency effort to confirm that the gold is at Fort Knox. Trump's support of the move on Wednesday comes after it was revealed there is no yearly review of the world-renowned stash at the Kentucky facility, leading to wild online speculations that some or all of the deposits, more than 8,100 tons, may not be there. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has insisted that the gold is indeed all there. Okay, Treasury Secretary. Elon Musk Doge, or Department of Government Efficiency, prepares to audit the U.S. gold reserves at Fort Knox after urging by Senator Rand Paul. It gives more details about that. So let's put that in the description section of our video and also here so you guys can see it in the chat. That's awesome, because I wondered what they discovered. Now we know. They say it's there. Oh, you have to go back to work. Okay, come back and check the playback. Thank you for loving this interest. By the way, Philip, I'm a part of the Republic too here in Florida, and I will be operating as a constitutional judge. And we're only holding the seat right now for the Republic, just to let everybody know the Republic is still standing until it's time for the people to actually elect the ones that they want to serve or to hold these offices. So the Republic is standing. I have friends that are holding space or offices or positions, just sitting in the seat, learning the Constitution, and just, speaking to each other. And some of my friends are actually helping to make sure that the laws that we have now on the books are related to the Constitution, and that they're bona fide, fitting in with the Constitution for our Republic. So this is very, very exciting that we still do have a republic in place. We're just waiting for President Donald Trump to make his move to say that it's all done, that the deep state or the United States Incorporated has been taken down. We already know that they're bankrupt and defunct, but he is using executive order to completely annihilate them and to move us back to the republic. And then those of us that are sitting here can say the republic is still standing, and he knows that. He knows about us. But you all will be able to say, okay, no, this is who I want in place. We're just sitting here so that nobody can say that there's no republic. Yes, it is here. Yes, we are still here, still meeting, still learning, still converging until you all or we all decide who's going to hold those positions lawfully. Let's get back to Philip says, wow, congratulations on that. That's really big. We're working on our court system. Absolutely, Philip. Yes. Thank you so much for the congratulations. I just wanted to share it. I haven't really said it much here, but I'm excited about it. And thank you for sharing what you shared with us. So again, the gold is allegedly still there. Let's get back to the Nesara benefits. We will create a new rainbow's currency backed by gold. Just in case people don't know, we do have legislation that's been passed here in America to reclaim silver and gold as money. Now, we already know that the Constitution for our republic says that the only thing that can be used to pay off debt is silver and gold. That's Article 1, Section 10. We also know that the Constitution defines the dollar as a fixed weight in silver. Additionally, we know that the Congress Coinage Act of 1792 pegged the dollar to silver and gold, and it made the silver actually the standard. The Congress Act of 1792, which was passed April the 2nd, 1792. That's why April the 2nd was such a beautiful, beautiful time here in 2025. Trump called it Liberation Day. He called it Liberation Day because that was the deadline for these countries to meet with him. And regarding the tariff wars, they had to come and sit and discuss the trade deals, and that was their deadline to stop putting tariffs on American imports, or either he would put tariffs on their imports. April the 2nd. April the 2nd, though, unbeknownst to most people, was also commemoration of the Congress Coinage Act that pegged the dollar to the silver and gold, mainly silver, and it made silver the standard. That was the precursor, the Congress Coinage Act of 1792, to the gold standard. So that celebration and commemoration was April the 2nd. Well, behind the scenes, something that I've been reporting over the years is that 46 states have repealed or removed the state sales taxes from precious metals. That's very, very important. There's an article by the Sound Money Defense League that says 45 states have repealed the state sales taxes from the sales of precious metals. But if you Google it, New Jersey became the 46th state. I'll see if I can show you that. So the Constitution for our republic already says that gold and silver are the standard, that the dollar is pegged to silver and gold, right? It must be that the dollar is defined as a fixed weight in silver, and then later on an amendment gold as well. This is why under President Trump's first administration, they were trying to pass legislation to make sure that happened. And it was a bill called House Resolution 5404 under the first administration, and it was called the Gold Standard Restoration Act. House Resolution 5404, presented by Alexander Mooney, like as in money, just an extra O, M-O-O-N-E-Y instead of M-O-N-E-Y. Everything is done for a reason. Alexander Mooney, Representative Alexander Mooney, introduced House Resolution 5404 around 2017 or 2018 under Trump's first administration. Then he reintroduced it as House Resolution 9157 a few years later, and then he reintroduced it again. Oh my God, it's been so many times I've said that. I can't remember the House bill, Just look up gold standard House Resolution 2435 called the Gold Standard Restoration Act. He actually introduced like 4 bills. Alexander Mooney. The last 3 times he reintroduced it, Paul Gosar and Andy Briggs. Those are all representatives. What they are doing, legislatures are doing, is the benevolent ones, is they're introducing bills in order to use the tools of the deep state. Introduce those bills, have those bills to pass through legislation so that they can then make sure that even under the old system, you're back on the gold standard. So just like President Trump is using the tools of the deep state against them, the executive orders to demolish them, legislatures are introducing bills and passing bills to reclaim silver and gold as money. So they reintroduce bills to make gold the standard. But behind the scenes, and you can find this on Sound Monetary Defense, Sound Money Defense League. And I've been talking about this for years. They published this article recently. Thank God. Now you have somebody that's bona fide, that's not Dr. Kia Pruitt saying, what we've been saying on our show for some time. That to date, that was when this article was published last year, 45 states have removed some or all taxes from the purchases of gold and silver. Of the 5 states that still remain, this outmoded tax to purchase precious metals, most of them are expected to consider ending the tax in 2025. Why is it important to remove the taxes or repeal taxes from the purchases of gold and silver? Let's talk about that. 45 states have done it so far. And if you look it up, 46 states. New Jersey became the 46th state. Excuse me 1 minute. I'll see if I can find that for you. Why have they removed or repealed state taxes from the sales of precious metals? Because under the old administration, when they took us off of the gold standard, they start identifying or classifying gold as a commodity or a collectible and no longer as money. So now you can tax it. But under our original constitution for our republic, you may not tax money. That's treasonous. You may not tax silver and gold. So somebody asked me a question yesterday, will the new currency be taxed? No, because the new currency will be pegged to gold and silver. It is unconstitutional and treasonous to tax money. These bloodline families, the United States Incorporated and the Federal Reserve Central Banking System taxed money, but they did it by reclassifying gold and silver as commodities. This is why banks now have to be Basel III compliant. Basel III compliancy says that they must recognize gold as a tier 1 asset. A tier 1 asset just means now they have to recognize gold as money. And if you don't recognize gold as money, then you have to be dismantled. That's why you see a lot of central banks being dismantled. If you're part of the members only section, you saw the video that I did that said central banks have been demolished or done away with, but sovereign banks remain. And I told you what sovereign banks are and what sovereign banks are doing right now. Central banks, again, now have been demolished. The sovereign banks are the banks that acknowledge gold as a tier 1 asset. The reason why, again, these states have to repeal or remove the state sales taxes from precious metals is because precious metals like gold and silver are now money. So legislatures pass laws to remove the state sale taxes from precious metals so that they can align with the Constitution that says the only thing that can be used as for money is silver and gold. That's why they're doing that. That's what people aren't talking about. New Jersey became the 46th state to repeal taxes. I'm looking it up from gold. Let's see if I can find it. I used to be able to Google it, and it would come right up. Let's see if I can Google it. New Jersey. Okay. Oh, there are some sites that say they became the 45th, and there are others that say they became the 46th state. But we know Kentucky was the 45th state to repeal the state sales taxes. I know that because I raised my children in Kentucky. Okay, here we go. I lived in Kentucky for 20 years before I came to Florida. Hey, if you Google it, New Jersey, it says New Jersey did not become the 46th state to remove taxes from precious metals. Mises Institute states that the New Jersey is actually the 46th state to eliminate sales taxes on gold and silver. When you eliminate taxes from the sales of precious metals, then hello, that's the same thing. It's interesting. So Mises Institute states that New Jersey is actually the 46th state to eliminate sales taxes on gold and silver. Nevertheless, the article states that 45 states, so whether it's 46 or 45, we see that this Sound Money Monetary Defense League, what's it called? Sound Money Defense League, says to date, 45 states remove some or all taxes from the purchase of silver and gold. Taxing the exchange of Federal Reserve notes for the monetary metals is an atrocious policy for several reasons. It's not only an atrocious policy, but it is actually against the law, our Constitution. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying before I keep going. You remember that? You're welcome, Sister Harvetta. She said, thank you for all you do. Thank you so much for acknowledging me, sister. You're welcome. It's my great pleasure. I see I'm getting some text messages from you all. Let me see. We're gone. We're free. We're sovereign. We're walking in our liberation, family. Now I don't say people. We know that we're sovereign. We know that we're operating in our king and queenship. We know we're not slaves. And we are now actually seeing the evidence of that. That's what I'm providing for you. Thank you for loving this info. I'm trying to look at your, some of you are texting me. Okay, let's get back to this information. And let me see if I have any notes. Have you all been having issues with your phones and your devices? I have for this entire year. Now with my mainstream media, I've been having issues for years. And they've taken down about 7 of my YouTube channels and some of my other platforms. Even LinkedIn, they took down for some time and censored because I was giving information there. Let me take time right now to acknowledge you all and tell you thank you for some of you that's sending me messages, letting me know you joined a private membership. There I give out another email address that's only for private members. So thank you for those of you that are letting me know you joined. Also, thank you for all of you who sent a monetary gift to support my work. Snooky Bay gave a monetary gift to my Cash App. Thank you so much, Snooky Bay. Kenneth Stewart, I appreciate you for sending a Cash App gift to me. Asdisa, thank you. And Norma, thank you. And all of you that are sending me a gift. And those of you who are asking, is $ Mama Kia 13. That's $ MAMAKIA 13. Thank you so much. So let's get back to the Nesara benefits. So yes, we're being liberated. Yes, our Constitution for the Republic has been reinstated. It never really went anywhere, but we're abiding by it. Yes, Nesara is happening right now. Yes, President Trump is actually taking steps like a madman. He's issuing out executive orders to restore our sovereignty, our peace, our prosperity, the gold standard, all of that. and he's working with other nations to restore global peace. So 46, 45, or 46 states, depending on which article you read, has reclaimed silver and gold as money by removing the sales taxes from precious metals. Now they're saying you can't tax precious metals because you're taxing money, and that's treasonous. Oh, another thing I want to show you is that there was a ruling by the Supreme Court as it relates to banks that says what state-sponsored banks can do, but we'll go over that in a few minutes. Where are we now? Oh, we're on 11. It forbids the sale, Nesara forbids the sale of American birth certificate records as chattel property bonds by the United States Department of Transportation. Selling our birth certificate bonds, circulating it on the New York Stock Exchange now will be forbidden, and you'll be able to gain access to it. One of the components of Nesara that's not mentioned here is that everybody is going to receive money. Remember, I told you that it was determined by the courts that the farmers have been have been mistreated by the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, and we, the people in America and all across the world, have been mistreated by the central banking system, because not only did they trade our birth certificate bonds, make money for themselves, gain interest on it, then gain access to their bonds, but whenever we needed something, they made us take out a loan, like mortgage, education with the student loans, car loans, any bank loans. You had to take out a loan instead of being able to yourself access the bonds. You assign a loan, which was giving them power of attorney, unbeknownst to you. They would access your bonds and your trust, pay themselves out of your trust, and then they force you to pay them a second time. They were getting paid with interest rates. Now that has to stop. So this is unconstitutional, is nefarious, it's evil, it's wicked, it's theft. So this tenet of Nesara says no more will your birth certificate bond be traded on the New York Stock Exchange. No more will you be traded as chattel. I was frozen because the internet went out, so now I connected you to my phone. Now we're using mobile hotspot. So can you guys hear me now? Now no longer can you be traded on the New York Stock Exchange as chattel property. Let me know that you can hear me, please, and we'll wrap this up. We'll eliminate New York, the new United States. Okay, here we go. Forbids the sale of American birth certificate as chattel property. 12, initiate new United States Treasury banking system in alignment with constitutional law. So initiate the United States Treasury banking system, right? Because remember I said under our, or for our republic, the Constitution for our republic, the only entity that may deal with money is the United States Treasury Department. That's why President Trump is one of the reasons he's eliminating the IRS and putting any monetary duties that were part of the IRS that is beneficial under the United States under the United States Treasury Department. But at the same time, he is, while he put their duties under the United States Treasury Department, he's systematically destroying the IRS because it is one of those entities, one of the government entities that has to be destroyed. Because remember, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Chevron Doctrine. Overturns Chevron. I always like to show you all proof when I say something. Here we go. I'll just show this to you briefly. The Chevron Doctrine gave the government, the faithful government, or the United States Incorporated unlimited powers. It allowed agencies to create themselves and say they were a part of the government. Then they can create statutes, policies, and codes and force us to abide by them, like the FBI, the IRS, the CIA, EPA, all those 441 government agencies that I told you about. The Chevron Doctrine allowed them to incorporate themselves, say they were part of the government, make you have all these policies and make you abide by them. And if you did it, you would have fines imposed upon you. Then when you went to court, the court said you had to abide by them, and they deferred back to those agencies as the experts. So the Chevron Doctrine then became known as Chevron deference, because judges referred or deferred back to those agencies, say, yep, you got to pay the fine. But the Supreme Court struck down the Chevron Doctrine, thus curtailing the power of so-called federal agencies. Can you see that? Let me put that in my notes. I have that listed somewhere, but I'm going to put it under these notes. So when a Supreme Court of the United States struck down the Chevron Doctrine, they said no longer can these agencies say they're part of the government because they're not part of our republic. The court said that these agencies, FBI, CIA, whatever you want to call them, are unconstitutional and treasonous, and all judges that went along with it and made you pay the fine, they committed treason, and any judge that knew of a judge that allowed that to happen, they committed misprision of treason. That's another reason you see judges being arrested. The Chevron Doctrine that allowed these agencies to call themselves government has now been done away with. And that is why President Trump, who was given a court order to do so, tasked Elon Musk with coming up with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to downsize the government. So all these people that took to the streets on yesterday from May 1st all the way to May the 4th, and said they're against Trump and his tariff policies, they're against Trump and Elon Musk for downsizing the government, they're working and operating in error. They don't understand or overstand that the government has to be dismantled, that we have to take down these powers because they're not part of our republic. I was going to look up something for you, but I forgot what it was. So we are eliminating the federal government. We're downsizing the government. We're also, let me get back to where we were. Can I send sources? I'll put the source. If you're talking about me, I'm being frozen again, I'll put in the sources in the greetings and the description section of the videos. Okay. Let's get back to this. Nesara. So yes, Nesara is real. Yes, it's happening under the Trump administration, both Trump administrations. Where do we leave off on? Forbidden the sale of birth certificates, initiates a new treasury banking system, eliminates the Federal Reserve. During the transition period, the Federal Reserve will be allowed to operate side by side by the United States Treasury for 1 year in order to remove all the Federal Reserve notes from the money supply. So the Federal Reserve is the created central banking system in alignment with the United States Incorporated. They are defunct and bankrupt. But I do want to say something about the federal banking system. Representative Thomas Massie from Kentucky introduced the Federal Reserve Board Abolition Act to end the Fed. See, I told you they used the tools of the deep state against them, introducing bills and which will be passed so that they can use the tools of the deep state, their own rules and regulations against them as we usher in or transition back to the republic and constitutional law. Representative Massie introduces the Federal Reserve Board Abolition Act to end the Fed. This one was published, I think this was March 2025. There was one published in May of 2024 as well. He announces the introduction of House Resolution 1846, the Federal Reserve Board Abolition Act. Representative Massie's legislation abolishes the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve Banks. It also repeals the Federal Reserve Act, the 1913 law that created the Federal Reserve System. Senator Mike Lee from Utah leads the companion bill in the United States. Representative Massie says Americans have suffered under crippling inflation and the Federal Reserve is to blame. During COVID, the Federal Reserve created trillions of dollars out of thin air and loaned it to the Treasury Department to enable unprecedented deficit spending. By monetizing the debt, the Federal Reserve devalued the dollar and enabled free money policies that caused high inflation. Monetizing debt is a closely coordinated effort between the Federal Reserve, Treasury Department, Congress, big banks, and Wall Street, Representative Thomas Massie said. Through this process, retirees see their savings evaporate due to the actions of a central bank pursuing inflationary policies that benefit the wealthy and the connected. If we really want to reduce inflation, the most efficient way is to end the Federal Reserve. It's happening. Simultaneously, while all this was happening, what happened with the Supreme Court? I don't have it here, but let me show you. The Supreme Court allows state-sponsored banks independently. Let me show you how they're destroying the Fed. It's happening. It doesn't matter that people don't see it. It doesn't. I guess some people do need to see it. So maybe it does matter. But it is happening. And you can show them. The Supreme Court on June, this was published on June 3rd, 2024, ruled that state-sponsored banks can disband from the Federal Reserve and issue their own currency, their own gold-backed currency. Supreme Court ruled that state-sponsored banks can have their own charter and operate independently from the Federal Reserve. So yes, the Federal Reserve has lost its power. It's being destroyed, which is a tenet of Nesara. Beautiful. During the transition period, the Federal Reserve will operate side by side by the United States Treasury Department. What are state-sponsored banks? Those are banks. You got to join the membership section that I tell you exactly what that means, state-sponsored. But put it in your mind. Who has more power, the state or the federal government? What does the 10th Amendment say? Who has more power, the state, the people, or the federal government, a group of bloodline families? Okay. State-sponsored banks can now disband from the Federal Reserve, have their own charter, and issue out their own gold-backed currencies. Remember, central banks were amassing gold in insurmountable amount of gold, record numbers in 2022, 2023, 2024. Those were the ones that were trying to make sure they were under compliance so that they can be sponsored by the states. They did all they could to make sure they went by the regulations. The ones that abide by the regulations, they'll stand. The ones that didn't, they will go away. Okay, only got 6 more minutes. They will restore financial privacy. We will restore financial privacy. hold on, I'll put that article about state-sponsored banks in the chat for you. I'm being frozen again. Was I being frozen? Can I send the sources? Okay, they're in the description section. I love you too. So many people on IG freaking out about executive orders. Oh, we have to teach them. Is the bank starting the setting to go back in the banknote world money? I'm not sure what you're saying. You might have to restate that. Thank you, Love Being Nubian, for being here. I see you. Yes, we're free. Okay, here's the article about state-sponsored banks. So you can see we're operating outside of the Fed right now. Okay, now let's go back to what restoring financial. I wanted to show you something about restoring financial privacy. Okay, I'll show you one article. Thank you all for you that are sending me Cash App gifts. I appreciate you for supporting my work. And thank you for joining the membership section. We got to do a video in 5 minutes. Okay. Here's one article. CFPB finalizes personal financial data rights rule to boost competition, protect privacy, and give families more choice in financial services. So I don't have time to go over that, but this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which finalized a rule that will protect our data, boost competition, and protect your financial privacy. I'll leave that in the description section for you to read. So yes, and you have Basel III compliances that says banks now have, and Basel IV, banks now have to be monitored. They have to be transparent. They can no longer steal your money. They can no longer trade your money. They can no longer do bank bail-ins and take your money to make themselves whole. All that has been done away with through Nesara. And let's see. Retrain all judges and attorneys in constitutional law. We talked about that. Number 16, ceases all aggressive United States government military action worldwide. That means we're going to have world peace. Releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. The Sovereign Wealth Fund was created for that purpose. Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Sovereign Wealth Fund was created for investments in the people in different areas and infrastructure. I did a video on that. You could go to the Dr. Kia Pruitt section of my YouTube video and look up Sovereign Wealth Fund, or Trump creates a Sovereign Wealth Fund. What was that tenet again? Releases enormous amount of money for humanitarian purposes. Okay, let me show you the Sovereign Wealth Fund. This is just one fund that will do that. President Trump creates a sovereign wealth fund. What is it and what does it do? He signed an executive order that puts in motion plans for a sovereign wealth fund. And basically, I already told you guys what it was. It is a fund that's comprised of investments. It's an investment fund that manages the country's financial assets. It's derived from surplus revenues from commodity, like from exports. I told you, so for the tariffs, foreign exchange reserves, which are foreign currencies, are in the Sovereign Wealth Fund. What else? And this is to help us reduce dependence on volatile oil or other commodity exports. So basically, the Sovereign Wealth Fund is comprised of foreign reserves or foreign currencies. I didn't even put this in there. So Sovereign Wealth Fund is comprised of precious metals, rare earth minerals, real estate, stocks, bonds, and other assets for humanitarian purposes, for investments, and for the infrastructure. Okay, and we're almost done. Talking about Nesara benefits. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. And enables the release of 6,000 patents and suppressed technologies that are being withheld from the public under the guise of national security, including free energy devices, anti-gravity, and sonic healing machines. all that will be released to we the people. So yes, the benefits of Nesara are here. The National Economic and Security and Reformation Act, and the benefits for the global population are here as well. In terms of releasing info, now that we're in this golden age or the age of Aquarius, let me show you this. This article, GovCon Wire, is what is the publication called 3 Tech Initiatives that the Trump administration is already impacting. He's releasing information about space, quantum technology, quantum computing, all that, quantum banking system, all that's coming out under the Trump administration, and artificial intelligence. So a lot of things that have been suppressed before is now being released. So family, I hope you've enjoyed the podcast where I've talked about Nesara and Nesara benefits. Again, those are benefits that will come out for the world to enjoy. Again, the last benefit that I briefly went over is that each person will have money to coming into their quantum accounts or their new banking accounts that will help you live. And that's money that will come back to you because of the unlawful banking practices. Not only will you have all your debts wiped away, all of your bank loans done away with, and zero out all your credit card. And if you've paid all that, you have your student loans and all those loans, that money is coming back to you. But the last thing is that we'll all have what some people are calling a universal basic income. That means you'll have tens of thousands of dollars into your account that you'll be able to live off of, that will come into your account every month. Countries already do it. Rich oil nations do it. When you're a rich nation, you give something to your people. Well, that money they're going to give us because we're going to be a wealthy nation. We're already wealthy with all the gold, rare earth minerals. Remember, 234 millions. Was it metric tons? Let me see, 234 metric tons of rare earth minerals were found here. We have gold, we have silver, we have palladium, we have platinum. 2.34 billion metric tons of rare earth minerals were discovered in Wyoming last year. We have lots of wealth here. Okay, plus you all have a trust, your trust fund babies. All that's coming back to you. So all of us will have money put into our accounts. Some people say maybe like 10,000 to 100,000 a month. I don't know how much that will be. I can't say for real, but it will go into a non-interest bearing account for you to live. Some people call it a universal basic income. I don't know what they're going to call it, but it's going to come to you all. Yes. Oh, love being Nubian. Thank you so much for the blessing. She gave us $100. I appreciate you. I love you so much. Thank you for serving as our moderator. Thank you for making sure the chat runs along smoothly. Thank you for adding to the discussions on all of my podcasts and our channels. And thank you for the financial blessing. I am so grateful for all of you for listening to this podcast, for sharing the video, for contributing to the discussion, and for all that you do to inspire the soul family. Thank you again, Sister Love being Nubian. I appreciate you. Also, thank you all for those of you who contributed to my Cash App at $ Mama Kia 13. So that's it, family. Somebody says they love the show. Thank you. That's it, family. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. Now I got to run to my members only section in order to do our video on Iraq. And what I'll do is I'll come back later on the weekend and give snippets, give some information on Iraq, but the sensitive information I reserve to my members only section because I don't want to get shut down. When I was talking about Trump's policies and what he's going to do to make America great again before he became the president the second time, that video was taken down by YouTube. And I said, this is what he's going to do. And I kid you not, they took my video down. They put a strike on my channel. And then Trump came back and said, this is what I'm going to do. And it's exactly, I knew it because I listed all the tenets that he had been saying. I had it written out, it's like 24 different policies. And he came and he did it as soon as he got in. But I have to be very careful because I got a strike. I had channels taken down. And I don't want that to happen. I want to protect the hard work that I've done over here. And make sure you all are, up on the information. Thank you. Caitlin says the first time watching. Oh, thank you. T House said that our videos here on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show are uplifting and inspiring. If you want to join the members only section where we'll talk more in the depth on finances, global wealth, how to gain access, how to build up wealth and assets, how to gain access to certain assets to create wealth for your family, then this is the membership link to join. And yeah, they are something else, to join the members only section. So my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and make this a great day.